Hi, this is Saujanya here from Attitude Makeover. Today we just finished a recording with Sunny Mogra, who is the founder CEO of Address Advisors, which is into the real estate market in India. We talked about an entrepreneur's journey, right from really identifying your purpose to the pros and cons of mentoring to the fuck-off fund to really onboarding and building a culture within your organization to the future of real estate as well. I learned a lot from this session, whether it's around setting up a company of your own, the entrepreneur's journey, a whole lot of things. I hope you enjoy the show as much as I did. And if you did like it, please do share and subscribe to my channel. This is my conversation with Sunny Mogra. So good morning, Sunny. Thank you so much for coming. I'm super excited.
Good morning, Sao. Congratulations on your first podcast.
Thank you.
And God bless. It's a brilliant day to start.
What a beautiful day, no? Ganesh Chaturthi, and here we are. So thank you so much.
It is.
So good to start?
Let's roll.
All right. So let's start off with, who is Sunny? What's your upbringing? What's at the core of who Sunny is?
So, it's a question that's never been posed to me, and you never told me you're going to ask me this.
Surprise.
That's nice. That's good to have surprises. So, I'm more of a heart person. My friends call me more of a heart person than a mind person. I've always driven my life through my heart. I'm a person who believes in care first, empathy first, and then about profits, or then about what needs to happen next. So that's the more core of me, and that's been my upbringing. So I have two older sisters.
So you're the youngest.
I was the youngest.
Pampered.
Oh, they pampered me. They were more like mothers to me.
Huh.
And I've had a very beautiful childhood with them.
Nice.
And after they got married, miss them a lot. Yeah. So yes, it's been a brilliant ride, and started with Address Advisors as my firm, and it's been 5 years that I've been going at it, and we're into real estate space.
How did you figure what is your purpose? I mean, did it strike you very early on, or did it sort of come in eventually, or were there snippets of it growing up that just became more and more clear as you went through phases of life?
As you went through phases of your life, I'm sure that's happened with you as well. You meet mentors, you meet stalwarts of the industry who teach you, who show you the brilliant aspects of life, how much you can give back, to each person, to each business unit, to the core essence of what you believe in. So the idea was more for that, that, whatever I have learned through my journey, and if I can make an impact on even a single person, even a single division, even a single company, I wanted to do that. That was my first core essence of starting Address Advisors. We wanted to create an ecosystem where the word real estate is no more a taboo in India. It's no more looked down on. It is to be respected, because we only had international firms coming in and bringing in that value. So we wanted to change that ecosystem. So we wanted people to know that real estate is something that people should respect with. People should know that it carries a lot of knowledge. Otherwise, in India, cricket and real estate, everyone knows. So everyone can talk about it. Everyone can teach Sachin Tendulkar why that shot was wrong, or how he could have bettered it, or how Virat Kohli could change his career. But that's not the fact. They've gone through a lot of training. They've gone through a lot of hard work. And that's where they are today. Yeah,
oftentimes you sort of forget the journey that you've gone through, and you only see the success.
Yes.
And that's the story that's normally told.
That's right.
The journey is lost in that whole process. So true. So schooling in Bangalore?
Schooling in Bangalore, college in Bangalore, post-graduation in Australia.
Okay. Post-graduation, what? You did engineering? What were your lines like?
I did an international business and international marketing.
Okay.
So I was always a marketing person. I was always a person who loved to talk to people. So what you're doing right now, I love that. And yes, so love to talk to people, love to hear them, love to hear from them, learn from them. So everything teaches you in life, right?
Absolutely.
So that's more me.
So is your family background from a business background, or where did business start coming into your blood?
My dad's still working. He's 65. He's a workaholic.
Wow.
So I got a little bit from my dad, little bit from my mom. I got the discipline. I got the workaholic nature from him. My mom was a businesswoman, and she started business in Bangalore when there were no women that were working in Bangalore. From a business perspective, there were still women who were working, as a professional career. This is about 25, 28 years in Bangalore. So you have to look at 83, 85, 1983, 85. And she started her business here. And she did very well. And she was very hardworking. She used to manage the business. She used to manage the house. She used to manage the 3 kids. And we really looked up to her. And my dad's still been a person who wakes up at 4 o'clock, does his course. Then at 8 every day morning, he's out for the office.
Wow. So actually, I believe that I grew up in a working parent, single parent household, right? I feel there's this innate capabilities kids from a working background come with, which is like, independence, discipline, knowing what they want, sort of having that sort of mentoring early on at home itself. Is that something you faced and experienced as well?
Yes. So you learn, when you see your parents, when you see them, what they're doing is right. So most of your schooling happens at home. It doesn't happen at school.
So true.
So it does happen there.
Yeah.
And what you see is what you try and, say that, if they can do that, and if they've done that through so much, where there was no technology, there was no awareness, there was no exposure that they had, but still they were so brilliant, right? You respect them for their brilliance in the way they thought. It's just that probably technology didn't help them to get this exposure. Otherwise, they are the stalwarts that I've always looked up to them and I've learned from them.
Yeah.
Not only my parents, some of my closest friends' parents, and the way some of them were single born, and single parents, and the way they were taking care of them, and the way they handled the whole situation, it was so brilliant.
Yeah. I've known you for what, 5 years now? Poker. I've known Sunny because we play poker together. You're a very observant person. Is that something that came way back itself?
Actually, poker taught me that.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Observance from, how you react on the table or you react to a conversation is what poker taught me. Observant of what you speak and what you're trying to convey. I think that's marketing that taught me that.
Interesting.
Yes. So when I started my career with KPMG, my mentor that time, or most of them, their mentor today, Romal Shetty, he is the current president for Deloitte. He was a people's person. So he always said, and I remember few of his teachings, he always said that whatever, you're talking to any other person, try and recollect, try and play that in your mind, try and see what you can pick on that, try and see what you can take a learning out of it.
Yeah.
And that would be bigger than a couple of books that you'd probably spend reading in a month.
Yeah.
And
so true.
That exposure will be much higher. Like, it's not that you shouldn't read books.
Yeah.
Read books.
Yeah.
Because that's a different learning.
Yeah.
But it's not this or that. It's this and that.
Yeah. And you talked about KPMG, and earlier when we were talking, you were in Cushman for a few years, like 4-5 years, from a consulting background. What are things that you still leverage from a consulting background? Let me just step back and see why I'm asking this. Oftentimes when people come from a consulting background, there's a lot of structure you come with. There's a lot around holistic perspective. Like, you folks from a consulting background really understand the business that they're working in, who are their customers, what really matters as a priority for those customers, the excellent storytellers. Of course, there's another side which is more a PPT based, execution is another story. What are some things you picked up from the consulting background, as even today you still carry it forward and use it extensively?
So whenever you're working with big corporates, or you've worked with them as well, they teach you more process, they teach you more structure. But like I said, they don't teach you empathy. They don't teach you client focus. They don't train you on those aspects. They don't try and bring out an entrepreneur in each person. So my goal when we started the firm was we bring these things out. We die for our clients. They should feel that this person is trying to, handle this part of our business. It's like their own. Once you have that gut to do it for any client, and the client believes in that, you've just won the client for life, and you go ahead with that. Corporates do train you in a particular manner. That becomes a part of your subconscious mind. But consciously, what you need to do, how you need to deliver that, how you need to create a bigger impact is what you need to, merge the both and try and figure that out.
So can I sort of say customer centricity as well as process is something that are big takeaways that you've got from your foundational years? Yes.
So foundation years, everyone, all your mentors try and teach you that, because when you're right out of the college, you're in a dream world. At least at that era we were. Now the era is completely changed. When you sit across to interview the newbies, you have to be more ready, or you have to speak more of their language to understand, what they want in their career. It's not the other way around. Erstwhile, I'm sure it happened with you. Erstwhile, it was more that, hey, what I can take from this brand, or how this brand can add value to me. It's no more that. It's no more about the brand adding value. It's each person that comes into your space, and, how he can increase that brand value of his own. It's changed, and it will change. It'll change at a faster pace in India.
Makes sense, actually. And it's so true as well, because I think working with millennials these days, it's out there that, they don't just come for the money. It's about they're very clear on what I bring to the table. And is that what you're offering? Is that really making sense for me? And it's not the money. So let me ask you one tricky question here. Money, profit, or customer experience?
Customer experience first. Definitely.
Explain why. I have my understanding on this, but I want to know.
So again, the core essence, if the experience of the customer has not been beautiful, if the customer, if I'm a customer and if I have not enjoyed the journey along with you, so it's never a one-way journey, right? It's always a two-way journey. And once you realize that it's a two-way journey, you would realize the value that you're trying to bring in. And once the values are set and you define that, the company goes in a long way. The whole experience and the whole journey of the client and your firm, it evolves more better. But today, it's about valuation. But we've always said, bring the value to the table, valuation will always get created.
I think many companies are slowly realizing that, especially post-COVID, that, it's the customer experience, it's your employee experience which are first priority, because once you've established that, the rest of it sort of picks up. But this is something you imbibed on very early on when you started Address Advisors.
That's right.
That was the foundation for it.
So when you're an entrepreneur, most of the entrepreneurs will say that, we knew where we were going to lead, or what we're going to do, or how we're going to do. I don't believe that's truth.
Yeah.
I totally believe that entrepreneurship is like nurturing your kid.
Yeah.
It's when you give so much to your child, the child reacts in a different manner. So markets react to you in a different manner. Your people that you work with react to you in a different manner, and everything. And that teaches you, or that reshapes your journey.
True.
And that's how you keep evolving with that.
True.
But yes, there are a few core essences of the entire journey that you realize that this is something that you do not want to shake from. And this is what you've started building it for. And if you believe in that, and if you keep at it, I think the overall journey, the ride becomes very nice.
I'm going to switch gear, Sunny. The real estate market, I was just looking at some of the reports, and we were talking about it before the session as well. there is definitely, I mean, India as a country, when it comes to savings, we've got two models that we go after, gold and real estate. So I think from that perspective, we're like, this industry is like a set. You don't have to sell to a customer that come invest in this. You've got ready customers. But having said that, what I saw is that there's an increase in residency demand, there's an increase in commercial demand, there's an increase in warehouse demand. At the same time, the investment, the VC investments, as well as the investments from outside, as well as in India, is sort of diminishing. And you were talking about how there was a supply surplus that we created, and then now it's sort of thinning down. Talk to me a little more about this. What's really happening there?
For the population that we have, erstwhile, there were a lot of investors that were coming into India, a lot of funds that were coming into India. They wanted to go on to the journey of India 2020 or India 2030. But overall, the whole scenario in the last 5 years, it started with Flipkart's journey. They started changing the whole dynamics of Indian real estate, where people today are no more looking at only the IBM's, Cognizant's or Infosys, as their job models, like we discussed. It's changed. So the whole dynamic of real estate changed overall. So it started way back, 10 years back. And it will keep evolving. You have RERA that has come in, Real Estate Regulations Act,
True.
which has given a lot of confidence to buyers in all the aspects that, the government is there behind you. So India is developing, structurally developing. So the investors have not come down. It's only become more structured. The approach has become more structured. So we've never seen real estate becoming more structurally known. Like, erstwhile, when your parents or my parents bought properties, this uncle bought it. It looks like a safe investment because he's a smart buyer. Let's buy it with him. Let's follow him. It was more of that. It was not more of reports. It was not more of knowledge why that market would increase or what is it causing it to increase. Like today, when you are investing in mutual funds or when you're investing in stocks, there's a lot of read that we go behind, right? Similarly with real estate, that has happened. So India is being read and it's being read right. And from that perspective, the investments are definitely coming. So a lot of investment the government today is doing is on the infrastructure development. If you consider Bangalore today with the whole metro, which, the new phase that they launched.
Which never will end.
I hope it will, because there are a lot of lives riding to it. It's not the real estate or it's not the matter of money.
Right.
There are a lot of lives riding to it from the perspective that there is a whole strength of, say, about a 40 or 50,000 employees that will try and access that road over a period of next 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And the good part is that the bank that has funded this entire project, they've put riders onto it. So putting those riders onto it, they want this project to be completed within the timeline. So infrastructurally, if the government becomes a little more fine-tuned, we would have a better and more developed nation from a perspective of real estate, if you see that. So most of the developers in South India, they started creating a community. Like today, if you go to South Bangalore, you would find schools, hospitals, shopping malls. So the accessibility, each location became very self-sufficient. The reason they had to make it self-sufficient because the market just kept expanding overnight.
True.
The number of companies that they wanted in India to come were phenomenal. And again, with this whole COVID fiasco, where China is losing out on manufacturing, India is gaining. India is gaining from that, and India is gaining from its own self-entrepreneurs. Today, Tamil Nadu has had close to about 20,000 crore of investments only on EV products. That talks. And we're proud of it.
I was just reading this morning that SaaS is something that is an opportunity in India, which means that, you bet on the unicorns way before unicorns are big. I think that again goes back to your poker skills of betting.
No, I don't bet on, people in poker you play the player. Here you play the business.
Yeah.
If you see the passion in them that they're going to deliver it, and you see the passion in the product, that's what will define it. The scalability will define it. The intent will define it. That's the differentiator. So I've sat for a few of these VCs and sat for a few of these places where they try and differentiate of which one to invest, what not to invest, because right now there's so many companies that are coming out, and so everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It's a good phase to be in. But
this is the time to be an entrepreneur in India. Totally agree with you.
But people should have the right vision to it. So that's the only differentiator.
So if I step back to our conversation, your early years in your career as well, there's a lot of structure that came in. The value system as a foundation was right there. And then consulting gave you more around the process and the marketing aspects and, storytelling and really understanding the holistic. I think somewhere you also mentioned research was an integral part, which is where the betting on the unicorn was not just Sunny just deciding one day I'm going to bet on a unicorn. There's a data-driven model to how you went about betting on unicorns. You mentioned that you then took a break at that time, and I asked you financially how were you doing. Tell me a little more about that. That was very interesting for me, how you took a break just when you had Jay, and then came back to set up your company. How did that happen? So overnight you just decided, okay, Kushman, I'm done with this now. And then, how did you go about?
So over a period of 3 years, I kept telling my dad that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start on my own. Every time I went to my dad and I told him, okay, I'm going to quit and I'm going to start. He said, just work for 3 months. Just work for 6 more months.
Something about parents. I hear this at home with my mom even now. Like, why are you quitting?
Yeah. So my dad did that in 2013, 14, and 15. Finally, I said, if I'm going to ask him again, then he's going to tell me, just work for a few more months. So I put down my papers and I went to him. I said, I've put down my papers. And he gave me now what can I do? So yes, I worked about 18 hours a day. So my philosophy of work is when you work 9 to 6, you put in some more hours after that. You give yourself a time, you give to understand how the business needs to shape up. So when I mean business is when you're working with a firm as well, right? You treat that as a business unit. You understand that business so closely and so nicely that you work for yourself after that. So at 9 to 6, I work for the company. After 6, I work for myself on that same business.
True.
So I used to do that a lot, and there was a good colleague of mine who understood this magic or this trick of mine, and he used to stay up late with me, and he's transformed as well. So I used to do that, and I was so overworked. I just didn't want to jump. I spoke to my wife. I said, I need a break. I traveled for 5-6 months. I went to different parts of the world. I had a toddler, but saw him grow in videos and pictures. But yes, it was a good experience because it gave me a lot of time to me. That's something that I think in the whole system that probably the era before, we missed that. Nowadays, people want to give themselves some time. They want their me time. And that me time was not a word that was there about 10 years back or 6 years back. But I gave that. That helped me a lot. I was not in the best of financial situations when I did that. It's not from the family financial situations, but it was more that, always I've been independent. I've been independent from the age of 16. At the age of 16, I think I stopped taking pocket money or any reliability from my parents.
13 for me, I used to do tuitions to make some money to buy jeans and clothes and all that stuff. I can relate to this so much. So
it was really awkward when I had my kid, and if I had to ask money from my dad after so many years, it was very different. I couldn't do that. But yes, when I had thought of it, I my wife was my supporter, and I told her that this is it. That you really need to shrink on whatever the expenditure needs to be there. Just give me a couple of years of support. But those were tough 2 years. Tough first 2 years is always the toughest.
Absolutely,
And after that, things changed. because of the hard work, of the persistence. In any business, if you keep at it, you keep remembering why you started your work with, or why did you start this whole journey with, and you're true to yourself with that. Anything would work out.
So I want to double click on this me time part. I saw two things, right? First one is the me time. I strongly believe in the me time. So to your point, you need the creative side, and you need time for the creative side to really see, okay, I've understood this. This is my day thing. What next? What's the path forward? Even when you're in a company like KPMG or Cushman, you were saying I had this time where you internalize, look at it. I think I want to understand, what do you right now do as me time? And do you do that every day? Do you sort of carve out some time? What are your habits?
I do that on a daily basis. How?
You meditator? Don't tell
I
me
don't
you
meditate.
bloody don't look like a meditator.
I've tried meditating, but it doesn't work for me. For some people it works beautifully, but for me it doesn't work. For me, my me time is I have a pen and I have my board, and I write. And I think about what's happened during the day or during the week with me. How could I have made it better? How I can improve the processes, or how, what's my journey going to be? So whenever any entrepreneur is developing a company, they always think about what company they need to develop, right? They don't think of their role. Their role, they become engrossed so much that the firm and them, they just become one. But that's not how it should be. That's my reading to it, So I've always kept myself away from that, and I keep saying my role changes in the firm. I need to change my role. So as long as you need to change your role, that would only come when you spend time with yourself. You try and look at your company from a third person's perspective. Or from a consulting perspective. So that was my premier years, right? So I used to look at other businesses and tell them what they did right or what they did wrong. And when I did that at the early years of my career, and I used to laugh when I used to go back home, right? I used to have this Yamaha, and I used to sing a lot on my Yam. I'm a very bad singer, but I used to sing a lot. And I used to think about these things. Like today, one of the MNC CEOs sat with me, and I'm just a BCom graduate. He explained me the whole process, and I told him, these are the mistakes you're making in your processes. And I was like, dude, he's been doing that for 20 years. Couldn't he look at it? Couldn't he see that this is what he needs to just make a minute change, and he's paying me so many dollars per hour to just make that change? So that's something that probably they didn't think about it, that they need to step back and think from a firm and individual perspective. True. So when you can do that, there is some more value that you can create to the whole ecosystem. I want to do a parallel over here in marketing, and in sort of when you have a CEO mindset, I think you have this whole concept of SWOT, right? So I think what I'm also understanding is you had a clear understanding of what your strengths are, and what are the opportunities out there as well, because that's the whole research and the internalization. And then you could sort of strategically say, this is where I'm going to pivot, and not necessarily because you're detaching yourself from the company that you're setting up. You're also able to pivot, repivot, and thereby make these small progresses. Is that reading accurate? You need to do that, yes. You're bang on with that. So with the whole system of first analyzing yourself, and understanding your core strengths, that made me choose my co-founder. And me understanding what she brings on board, me understanding what were my weaknesses and where she can double up to that, made me choose my co-founder initial days. And the beauty of that was that I was able to see that. If you're two of the same kind of people, it's a clash. You're not bringing anything new to the table, right? True. And that's where the whole journey becomes very monotonous, and you don't have nothing new to share, or you agree on the same ideas on an everyday basis. It's very boring. Mine is not a boring.com. So that's a new segue that you just opened up. So what I know and understand is that having done 2 startups more on an interest basis than being a startup,
I think it's very important to identify a partner. And most of the startups fail, almost 70% I read, fail because you don't have the right partnership. Bhavna Ketan, sorry. How did you go about? Where did you find her? And how long has it been? What are some complementary skills you'll bring to the table? How's that relationship and how's it evolved?
So they always said never do businesses with friends. Okay. So Bhavna and I were friends for the last 20 years. And we worked in the same firm for like 4.5 years. And when I was onto this journey and I said, this is my journey that's going to be, and I actually pitched it from a manner that I actually wanted her to quit. And I wanted her to be, part of this entire ecosystem with me. Because I clearly knew, because of the 4.5 years that I was with her in that firm, I knew what she brings to the table. I could easily say that she's the brain and I'm the more of the visionary, and we both are okay with that. So the conflict in co-founders is the biggest reason I think people try and do the other co-founder's job.
Yeah.
So as long as you're doing yours and you respect the other person's. You've made an ecosystem which you believe for yourself and you believe for the firm then. So I started with telling her what my entire vision is and how it's going to go by with the same boring presentations. For everyone it starts that way, right? It's just paper. She was okay. She said, let's take a leap of faith. And she was at a very senior position in Cushman. And I started, when they say bootstrapped, I was really bootstrapped. So my first office was my car. Okay. I used to carry lunch boxes.
Which you still do, right?
Yeah. I used to carry lunch boxes. I used to park the car on the side. I used to go onto my boot and enjoy my lunch. And on the first day of our firm, I made Bhavna do that. So I had to bring her to ground level, right? She was 11 years with an international firm and she had never done that. She like, Sunny, what are we doing? I like, this is it. I don't have a garage. This is my garage. I like, let's start from here. And we parked outside a bus stop.
Ghar nahi tha kya?
No, I started 2 firms earlier where I failed. And I used to work out of home. Home and office is completely different.
Distractions.
It's not distractions. It's your own attention.
Home more is comfortable.
Home. Yeah, so work from home.
Yeah.
The concept is coming now. It's more we're forced to it, right?
Yeah.
But given a choice 5 years back, 8 years back, wouldn't you want to get out?
Yeah.
You wanted your home life to be different and your professional life to be different.
Yeah.
We are in a studio. Why can't this be created at home?
Yeah.
The whole essence that brings to it, it's going to be different.
True.
So
goes back to the discipline, isn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does, and it brings more seriousness into you, right?
Absolutely.
And not all homes are equipped, where they believe in that entrepreneur journey. Initially, everyone that started, their parents probably thought that, let them give it a try. Nahi hoga to job hai. But it's now that in today's era, the parents actually say, go ahead, you can do it. We are there behind you. But not every entrepreneur has heard that.
True.
So each has its own journey, and I didn't want the home office.
Yeah.
I've never wanted that.
So one of the things you talked about is this whole bootstrapping, right? I have this concept called the fuck off fund, pardon the language, but it's literally the fun that you show a middle finger to anything and say, no, this is it. I want to do what I'm passionate about. And I think when we were talking, you talked about how you created that from starting from ground zero. You sort of built that fuck off fund. And so when COVID happened, you were still fine. So tell me, how did you go about planning that?
So equity is more expensive than, the money from the bank. Okay. I am a hardcore finance person.
That you are. I've seen that in
Okay.
your poker place.
So when I say hardcore finance, my dad wouldn't agree with that because I hate doing accounting. Okay, so I believe the revenue needs to be generated and then you can spend.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're accounting for every penny,
Yeah.
what you're trying to earn, you're not focusing on the growth.
Yeah.
So that's my funda. It's a very
That's where the fuck off fun happens.
it's a very stupid
Yeah.
concept for most of them.
Yeah.
But I believe in that.
Yeah.
Like if I have to spend $100 on something,
Yeah.
but I know I can make 1,000 out of that,
Yeah.
I'm okay to spend that. I don't mind.
Yeah.
But yes, when we started, I was very clear that probably giving away equity, I wouldn't know whether the people that come and invest with me, whether they'll believe that the whole value system needs to be created. We are trying to create the entrepreneurship in people. We are not just about profits, though we are very profitable. It's just not about profits. Profits get created.
Correct.
You create the right ecosystem, you get the right people, let people take care of your business.
Yeah.
And profits will come. So initial year itself, when the first hire was made, Bhavna and I decided that every person that we hire, we want a year's of their salary to be kept in the bank account.
How early on did you decide that? Was it
First
like
month.
Oh, really? That
Yeah.
was the found. Yeah. Not many people do that, right? Or have you seen that as a general norm out there?
No, I don't think so. Anyone does that.
Yeah.
Like I said, everyone wants to create valuation. They want to hire more number of people, then they create the value out of that. No, it doesn't. So it probably works in different fields. It probably works in the AI field. It works in different fields, but it doesn't work in every ecosystem. In real estate, you have to be profitable to grow. Okay. If you want talent to be attracted, if you want to grow your firm, you have to be profitable. You can't show scale and you can't just show how much you can turn into the revenue or to the profits after a certain number of years. It doesn't work. I don't believe how that works very easily. So there's large manufacturing company, furniture manufacturing company, I'm not naming them.
I sort of have an idea.
The last valuation at which they raised the funds were about 800 crores and they got sold for 150 crores.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that company.
Yeah.
I'd rather invest 150 and get sold out at 800.
Yeah.
So we started with that. So with the COVID scenario as well, we didn't bother. So my people are my assets. I have a very beautiful team. They treat the business as their own. And that's been the toughest part of being an entrepreneur, where you make them believe that it's their firm.
Yeah.
And it's just not from us saying it. We believe it's their firm.
Yeah.
So when you make that happen and you keep the finance, situations in a perfect model where your company can grow from any strength, that's good enough.
So this is something I learned sort of early on in my career working in HP. Culture is an important aspect. So in HP, the culture used to be that, you're an asset. We hired you for what you bring as strengths. It's a very strength-based organization, and very few organizations have that culture where each one is in that team for a reason and you're going to complement each other. And that's how we're going to create value for our customers. And I think that's the ethos of your company that I'm seeing as well. So one of the things when we were talking, you talked about how much time you spend on training and the gaps and challenges you had at that time, and hiring and training people to really understand this segment, and especially considering the foundation was customer centric, foundation was employee centric for you. How did you go about that training, ramping, and because that's like 6 months, 5 to 6 months investment, isn't it?
We never discussed about this. I'm so surprised you brought this up. So I audited from KPMG. I audited HP.
Oh, you did?
And I audited the HR department.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned. So whatever you learn, if you bring the right things to the table, you bring the right culture to the table. I loved the culture which HP brought about.
Yeah.
And I audited them in 2004. And I audited 8 units of HP businesses. At that time, HP had 8 different business units. KPMG gave me that exposure. And my mentor believed, he's like, go at it, you can do it. So those are the few aspects where I realized at very early stage that they believed that employee or the person or your colleague that is working with you is your strength, is that is the asset.
Yeah.
And internally in KPMG also, the mentors believed we were the assets.
Yeah.
Just it's not our laptops.
Yeah.
So we brought that essence to the whole table. Unfortunately, in India, real estate training is very, very different.
Yeah.
They don't train people. But if you don't train people, you will never get the right output.
Yeah.
So you got to invest in training and development. Unless you train them and they deliver the whole system to you, you're not doing justice to your customers. You're not doing justice to the whole value system that you wanted to create. So that stopped at certain point in time, the whole industry somewhere. So I'm not talking about, because real estate is a large field. It's, it has construction, it has development, it has consulting. So I'm talking more from a consulting perspective. So that consulting approach, you need to pick and identify. Though we're pretty small firm, in all our reviews, we always go back and talk, okay, who needs to be trained on which aspects? What can we bring about? How can we, change that whole method? So our training is not that whether you'll be able to deliver this bit at this position. No, I try and train people what they can deliver next. How you
work on their strengths.
I work on them to improve to the next level. So we have to do that. If you improve people, they'll, improve the people below them.
Yeah.
So that's the core essence of that. But in India, everyone is more scared whether if they leave, what will happen. If they leave, they will create something more beautiful outside. And until unless we start that journey, until unless Flipkart started that journey, until unless Tata wanted to make his first car, Indian car, everyone laughed at him, right? But he did that.
Yeah.
He lost all his friends.
Yeah.
No one believed Indica would do what it did, but it did that.
Yeah.
So probably we'll start and we'll have more number of firms that go by.
Yeah. So knowing you, there are two characteristics I sort of seen, and I know you only from that poker table, and you're a bloody aggressive poker player. But there are two things. One is I think you're a high risk taker. And the second thing I also think is you are a good reader of people. And
I'd like to believe that.
Right. And so, and you do not just read, you also assess based on that, where you are in that situation, and then you play the person. So how do you apply some of this back to your work itself?
No, that's poker table, so that's not work. So poker is more fun, yeah. So
you don't apply any of this to work?
Risk, yes, but not from the people perspective.
Okay.
Not at all from the people perspective. But yes, I try and see, if we match on the culture, we match on the values.
Yeah.
I don't, so off late we've been interviewing, we've interviewed 2,000 more plus people. Because
2,000?
Yes, last 6 months. For everyone who says that there is dearth of jobs, I say there's dearth of talent.
Yeah.
There's dearth of people who want to do something with their lives.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite way for me. To finding the right talent itself is very tough.
Yeah, it is.
I said before, it is not the dearth of jobs, it's dearth of actually good talent that's there. People want to do different things, but they don't try and, analyze what impact that can create, that part of their work or the part of the whole journey of theirs, what impact that can create, within the firm or for themselves. Some of them are so lost that they don't know whether, that would actually have an impact or they would actually create something out of it. But most of them need that guidance. But you try and hire people for what they can do, not for what they've done. If they've done that, it's been there. They have to look forward. That's something that's missing in, the youth today. And it probably is not missing overall. It's just that, there's so many startups that are there. and everyone is out there to hire talent. If we can start changing that bit in our ecosystem or in the education system, like your daughter, some of them are so clear in their whole thought processes. Their
I
education.
get scared of that.
But it's good, right? Saujanya, you get to know them.
Yeah.
That's very good, and they're not shy in telling their thoughts or their ideas.
Very articulate.
They are, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what probably we lacked, right? That whole education system in the manner in which we need to speak. We were always very shy, and we kept our ideas to ourselves. From a perspective whether somebody laugh at it or somebody would think small about us. But that's not how it's today's generation. They're right there. They're in your face. It's not the US culture. It's the education system that needs to change. We've never changed that. Everything in India has changed. Today with the edtechs that are coming in, but they're not bringing those changes.
I feel you need to have like financial literacy, entrepreneurship, empathy. Some of these need to be taught in school. Like, I really think these are foundational things. Whether you study history, you need to study history, geography, and math and all that. You need to understand that. But I think these are foundational for really being a good human being, I guess.
Yes. So I do that with my son.
Yeah.
So I get Sundays with him. So for him, Sunday is just Son's Day. So now he's 7. So I do that on a every Sunday basis. I try and analyze what I want to teach him today. That's something what you said, right? It's not there. When as a parent, it's not there, but you want to give that to your child.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started with vitamin D, so the kid's like, he leaves his table all around. He doesn't keep his table clean. He doesn't do things in the right manner. So I tell him, you have vitamin D deficiency. You need to have discipline. But they catch it so well.
Yeah.
He came to my office, a couple of weeks later, and
my
papers were all over my table, right? He's like, Dad, you have vitamin D deficiency. I'm like, dude.
It comes back.
Oh, and they remember it at such a right point, okay? And like, you come at the wrong time. This is not me wrapping up. This is me working.
Yeah.
And but yes, so if you realize that as a parent and you give that feedback to your school systems. So my wife never wants me to attend the PTMs because I tell them about these things, and she's like, you'll get him thrown out of the school. But what's the whole point? If they don't hear a right review from a parent of what else they should teach, 2 + 2, he'll learn eventually. But if you change the whole model in which they need to be taught, and you try doing it now, is when you will create a overall change in the system.
Yeah, so true. I want to go back to your earlier conversation. Is it right to think of you as an ideator more than as an executor? You would be a great executor, but the true Sunny would really enjoy it, just reflecting back, doing the research, ideating on, where next? What's my next product? What are some things I need to pull together? Is that a fair assessment?
Very fair assessment. I love to do that.
I like the small smile you're giving. I'm asking you this question.
You read people well, Saujanya. It's not that you you have your experience, right?
Yeah.
And so I love doing that.
So I thrive in that space, so I can sort of recognize that very quickly. So from that perspective, tell me, how do you do that, and what is the future that you're actually looking at? Because you're into, you started off in the commercial side, you expanded to the residential side, now you're into warehouse. So you're sort of creating, the journey map of your customer, and you're sort of creating a holistic tied-in story and sort of looking at it as a platform itself. That needs someone to really understand the space, not just understand the space, also to look at the art of the possibility, and then also identify how to go about. So tell me, how are you doing that? Is there a research team? Is there a technology team? How are you going about?
So this is like phase 1 of my business. The phase 1 of my business is the business where I start creating the money towards it. The phase 2 of my business is where my technology will come in. we really need a lot of help in technology, but we know from a business perspective of what we want and how we can actually create an impact with technology in real estate. So there are a lot of people who are doing different things in real estate from technology perspective, from construction side, how they're making things more simpler, or from, building management systems. There have been some companies that have come in from the whole consulting perspective. But more from the experience perspective is what companies have not come about. Customer experience from a consulting perspective. And when we started, that was the whole idea. I said, this is the phase 2. So I knew at phase 1 what my phase 2 was. So the phase 2 will evolve eventually with the whole tech team that's being formed. So we've been out there, we've been meeting a lot of people from tech front, and we're trying to get a right partner to it who can help us build that with us. So Bhavna, we really lack in that. We got another friend of ours who joined our journey about 3 years back. He was 25-year-old businessman. Okay, he's been doing business right from the age that I started working, his family business, and so he is also not a tech guy. So we all are 3 business acumen people in different spheres of life. But tech is something that we are trying to solve for ourselves. That's going to scale, but we're not going to say that we're going to innovate something, but we're going to make things simpler for people, something that people would be genuinely happy having that in their lives. So it's not always about innovation. Everything shouldn't be innovated. I think some things which are kept simple. If I'd like to open my car door, I'd like happiness in opening my car door. Don't give me a button where you make me lazy by just opening my car door to me. So that's not me, and that's not for everyone, right? But there are people who want that. So we're not trying to innovate. We're trying to just make things simple. We're trying to make things more accessible in real estate. That's the whole idea that's going to be. And in India, you want people to believe that whatever the other person's saying, it's fair. Whatever the other person's saying, you can believe in that. So that's going to be the idea.
Got it. And is research a big part of this whole work for you?
Yes. Unless you know what's behind or what's coming in future, you cannot solve your present very well. So you need to know both the aspects. So research is definitely a big aspect, and I love doing that. So what you said is right. So it helps me. It keeps me grounded when I keep seeing what's been behind and what's coming in front, and where am I truly at. So it helps me as a person, and it helps me, ideate with my whole business of how it can be taken in future.
Got it. And let me double click on that aspect. So I, as a learner, am more an experience-based learner. So for me, research comes talking to people first, then reading about it and listening to podcasts and others, and then sort of internalizing it and then having my own research. What's research for you?
So when I did my master's in Australia, so as a student in Australia, a lot of people work in very different jobs. I took up a job with a company, the oldest research firm in Australia, which was called McNair Ingenuity. Yeah. So I wanted to learn how research is actually done. Why people invest in research. What is the essence of it? What do companies make out of that? And why is it necessary for them to do it? So in our own way of running the firm presently, a lot of people in my firm who work with me do not realize that there's a lot of research work that's going behind of why we are doing these things. So some people who are able to read that, they are more closer to the business. But people who are not able to read that, it's for them to understand that this is happening because of the reason that's there behind it. So yes, research for me starts from a perspective of how my idea needs to work from a written, what's written on the wall of what my steps will be next. So I don't start straight from podcast or from looking at videos or reading books. It starts from me to understand that have I been very complacent in my work, or am I not challenging myself enough? So it starts from that perspective. It starts. So that's where that my eagerness to keep growing happens, and then I follow the same, to read, to see interviews, to hear people speak and to see what people, how they're thriving on different aspects of their businesses.
True. So early on when we started, you talked about mentors. And for me, mentors, sponsors have been an integral part of my journey growing up, because there's a huge part of learning, unlearning that you go through these mentors. And you have mentors for various aspects, right? I think what I gather is you've got mentors for different aspects. Talk to me about mentorship and sponsorship. How do you go about really building that?
Again, the era that we grew in, right? We didn't realize we've had mentors all along the way.
Yeah.
Because those words were not very...
You make me sound like I'm very old. I might have grey hair.
So when I say the era, it's because what the kids in today's era is getting is so beautiful. You just want to be reborn, right? You want to play with the technology. You want to make your life simple, but sometimes feel bad, sometimes feel good.
Yeah.
That I played the gully cricket.
Yeah.
I played the different forms of games, and I was not just stuck to my mobile. So we've always had mentors. The whole thing with mentorship is you need to understand what you need out of that mentor.
First. Yeah.
So it's just not going up to a person and asking, can you be my mentor?
Very true.
But what would you want from that person? Which aspect of your life that the person can solve? It's just not about business. It's just not about solving it in your business. It's about how the person can actually just give you a clarity of thought. With that whole conversation that you have with that person. Can that person just give you a little more clarity? And will that help overall as a person? Will that help you overall as a the whole ecosystem that you build for yourself? So we've always chosen mentors, but it's been more subconsciously that you've chosen than today when you actually want to choose them. Erstwhile it was more easy. I think people had more time. Though it's said that Bangalore is not a fast-paced city, I think Bangalore is more fast-paced than Mumbai. Right. Mumbai people are only traveling. Yeah. Here people are not traveling, but people still don't have time. Yeah. Because we are involved in so many different things at any given day. And I think the productivity levels in Bangalore is much higher because of that. So choosing a mentor is the most difficult aspect of a business. Yeah. It's not, you're very happy sharing your journey with everyone that's there, right? And the person needs to give you that comfort. The person needs to tell, okay, I'll solve that for you, not with the right words that I'll solve that for you, but, I'll help you through that journey. But yes, I've chosen my mentors very well, and they've been a big part of who I am today.
So it's not just about you identify, here's the area I want to focus on, and thereby, let's say, Saujanya is the right one. It's also about the energy you get out of each other as well, right? Or it doesn't matter?
It does matter, so sometimes you pick and choose on a mentor where the other person, you don't need to say that you're my mentor.
Yeah.
Like when I am with you, or I'm with a couple of my other friends, I try and learn from them. I try and see on a different aspect of business or on a different aspect of life. Yeah. Like with you and Sham, the way that your relationship is, it's so beautiful for me. And I take that back.
It only is outside, okay. You should come home and see the reality of it.
I think he's more in the kitchen. I don't want that life. So different paths, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the other person realizes that. Sometimes the other person doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of relationship.
Yeah.
So real estate, that's why, because real estate has the word real in it, and it is very close to relationships. It's about how you nurture that. And that's the core essence of who you are as a person.
Yeah. So now that you talked about real estate and the real aspect, another reality of real estate is the corruption and the black and white. And how do you deal with that? How do you go about really,
who's going to watch this podcast? So It is there. The corruption is there in everything, and it's
So
not
I'll
there
tell
in
you why
everything.
I'm asking this. I'm a idea brain, right? So sometime back after working in HP, one of the ideas was, why can't I just automate the whole? I mean, when we did the registration for our property, it's like you have to wait for the touts, you have to wait for your loan applications, you have to wait for pretty much everything, and it's a very stressful process for someone who has a day job. So the idea was, we've got document automation, we've got security, we've got cloud solutions. Why can't we just make this completely out there as a platform? But it was not the technology that was missing. It was a bloody system. And the system is so deep rooted, I don't know if it's ready for change and to be really digitized. So from that perspective, I'm trying to see, because there's so much of that deep rootedness in the system. How do you go through that?
It will change, Sajana. It will, and it is bound to change. In next 10 years, it'll evolve completely. In some parts of India, it's already started doing.
You think so?
It is. It is started. So with the whole demonetization, earlier everyone, if you went to buy vegetables, you can't give him a credit card, right?
Yeah, the Paytm thing,
Nothing.
UPI has just changed the whole story itself.
So people have started accepting that now.
Yeah.
And especially in cities like Bangalore, and even if you're going and having a tender coconut, it's okay if you don't have money with you. He has everything that's there.
Yeah.
You can just scan your phone and you're set.
Yeah.
So things will change, and I'm very positive about that. And the whole government is gung-ho about that. So demonetization was a part of it. A lot of people say it was a failure, but for me, if you look at a thing very hard and say that it was a failure, probably there was something good that came out of it, right? I saw Vijay Shekhar Sharma dancing when the whole demonetization happened, and he never imagined when he built his company. Like you were asking, does an entrepreneur know what's going to happen? He never thought about it.
Yeah.
And that's when he realized that everyone is going to use their phones.
Yeah.
So it will change. Things will evolve, and it's not about corruption. It was just about that hand money that was moving around, and people being the babus that we call in India. The whole education system that needs to change. So there are a lot of levels of changes that is required in India. It's just not India. We talk about India. You look at other countries. The most developed countries that we talk about,
it's deep rooted everywhere.
Oh, it's deep rooted everywhere. Yeah. I think we are pretty much better.
Yeah.
I think India overall, today, if you speak in your local language and you say you don't have money, somebody on the road would help you there.
Yeah.
But if you speak English in most English-speaking nations, it's going to be very tough.
Yeah.
So it's at different levels in different countries. I think we are pretty much sorted, and there are a lot of good people who are doing a lot of good stuff as well.
What you're also saying in a very polished way is that you need to be grounded in the reality of things when you're doing your company, when you're setting it up, knowing that this part of it is out of my control, this part of it is within my control, and so thereby this is what I am going to focus on. I know this eventually will evolve, but be prepared for that and be more optimistic and watch for that.
I think entrepreneurship, everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, he doesn't want to have control. He wants to give the control. Because he neither wants control, he neither wants to be controlled, he neither wants to control. So he or she.
मैं बात कर रहे हो.
When I say he, you understand that, right? So the entrepreneur doesn't want to control.
Yeah.
They want to give away the control.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. It's not about control. It's about the fall.
Yeah.
And when it's like, this is your new entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
This is you're not going to have a structure to it. You will probably have structure to the conversation. Yeah. But what the other person says or speaks, you don't have control over that, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want that control.
Yeah. Then it looks like a staged model itself.
So entrepreneurship is not about control. So whoever gets into entrepreneurship, the person's like, I don't know what I'm going to get into. I don't know what my opposite forces are. So we are ready for anything.
Yeah.
And when you're ready for anything, and when you're ready to take that fall, is when you actually are true to yourself and you're true to the whole system.
Yeah.
So that's the most beautiful aspect, right?
So I've seen you develop an interest towards AI. Help me understand. I sort of have a perspective on it, but I want to hear it from you itself on How do you envision AI really helping you in this connected story across residential to the warehousing and for the customer journey? How are you seeing, and I read a lot about AI really penetrating into the real estate sector, but I want to understand from you, how are you envisioning it? How are you seeing it?
So technology at the end of the day should be able to, help people ease their work or help people relax more. Technology is not something that should keep you busy. Technology is something that should make you free. That's how I look at technology. If there is something in the tech space which can free my time and can give me that much more time with my kid, or that much more time with my passion, or that much more time with my whole journey of my life that I want it to be, that's what technology is for me. Okay, so in real estate, that's what we're going to bring about. That's what our vision is to bring about, that any investor or any user of that real estate, how that person can eventually be free of the whole asset management of theirs, or be free of the rental or their income towards that, or be free of any nuances that they have to do on their day-to-day lives, and how that can be stitched beautifully for them. So it's just not about the warehousing or the residential aspects. It's about the entire real estate aspect to it.
So you're almost like envisioning real estate as a service or a managed service in that case.
Real estate is like, eventually it should be, like a mutual fund income to you, where you've parked your money and, you just keep getting your returns to it. It should be something that should be an enabler to your income. It should not be added work to your whole system, right?
True.
So if that is what you're able to achieve as a firm, I think you've done the whole bit of solving the problem for a customer.
In a lot of ways, I see that to be the game changer to our earlier conversation of the technology penetrating into it as well. I'll give you an analogy, right? When you look at earlier days, we had to book a cab, auto, or whatever. Now you have Uber, Ola. But what they also brought in addition to convenience is the federated auditing model. Like a driver can rate me, I can rate a driver, and it's become very transparent. So is that also some outcome that potentially might come from real estate as a service?
Like I said, we'll take the fall and we'll see where it goes, but eventually the control has to be with people. When you leave the control to people, and when you leave the control to people of what they want with their lives or what they want with their assets, then you're doing true to your job. If you want to keep that control and you want to drive it, then you're not building a system where they would be happy from their whole experience perspective. Leave the control to people, leave them to decide what it is. So that's what Uber and Ola did, right? While you're rating the drivers, but the driver should also be able to rate you. And so the control is at both ends. It's just not at one end. So if the control is at both ends, the business thrives. But if you leave it at one end, it's like the seesaw, what you learn in your early life. You need to have the balance in life.
Any advice for anybody who's starting new as an entrepreneur or thinking of something? So Attitude Makeover is all about really focusing on the passion and the creator economy, and really sort of guiding them or helping them envision what is the art of the possible. How do you go about building your personality, your brand, and your change management? So advice for listeners on, anybody who's thinking around this, on what are some key takeaways from Sunny?
Plan well. Okay.
Spend time in planning.
Spend time in planning. Spend time in speaking to people. Spend time in correcting yourself. Spend time with your own self. But take the fall. If you're ready for the larger vision of your whole aspect, take it. The journey is very, very fulfilling. It's as good as when your parents brought you up. They didn't know what they're going to expect from you as a child. Don't be ready for everything, but don't get so attached to your work that you forget yourself. Keep them two separate. When you keep those two separate, your work will give you more than what you'll give to the work.
True. Hey Sunny, it's been a lovely conversation. My first one. I hope you were comfortable. This has been an amazing journey for me. Just hearing you out, going through this 1.5 hour plus conversation. Thank you so much.
Wish you the best, Ajani. I'm gonna watch this space, and I'm sure you'll do so well in this, and you're going to make people realize their journey. There's so many aspects that you asked me, and I didn't realize that these dots actually connected for me so well. And some parts, that first question of yours actually gave me the goosebumps. And
Purpose?
yes, it really gave me goosebumps, and it's very beautiful. It's sometimes you sit back and you realize that.
Yeah.
And this will help a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, or a lot of people who want change to be made in the world.
True.
And kudos to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.